Over in the east of the USA, stretching between the states of Georgia in the south and Maine in the north, and spanning for over 2,100 miles, is a footpath called the Appalachian Trail. Every year, around 3,000 people attempt to thru-hike the entire distance, taking 4 to 6 months or longer. In 1998, Bill Bryson attempted to do the same in his book A Walk in the Woods. I followed in his footsteps to explore the 14 states through which it passes, and to meet the hikers, the rangers, and the people that make such an undertaking the trip of a lifetime.
The Appalachian Trail is a grand adventure, whether you're going for just a day or hiking the whole trail in 6 months, and it has incredible natural beauty, but it's also a place just known for its friendliness and the community that has developed around it, both among the hikers and the townspeople and the volunteers who take care of it.
In Georgia, we met Frank Wright, responsible for maintaining the first mile.
I've been hiking since I was a kid. I started out in North Carolina, 8 or 9 years old, and it's just in my blood, and it just seemed like something I really wanted to do. Well, I didn't go looking for it. I happened to volunteer one day, and they got their hooks in me pretty quick, and I just enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. At the end of the day, you can actually see what you've accomplished, and it's a really good feeling.
Someone who did go looking for it is Murray Lamb, who thru-hiked in 2004.
I was getting out of 6 years active duty in the United States Navy, and I wanted to get back in the woods. It was very exciting. I'd heard about hiking the AT my entire life and wasn't sure that I could do it even when I was on it sometimes, and so getting here and being done and having an end to that was really interesting. It also was kind of sad because I did not want to stop hiking. I got up the next morning after getting back to my parents' house and kind of wandered around at like 5 in the morning and was like, well, I could just start hiking north again, and I almost did it.
But not everybody thru-hikes. There are many who choose to section hike instead, opting to complete the trail over several years.
I've walked 400 miles of it. I got a fifth of it done, so I'm doing it in sections at this point. And I've done the Maine end and the Georgia end, and then some of the middle in Virginia. Well, when you're thru hiking, it's kind of like your job. You're under time constraints. Most people either have to be back at a certain time, or there's the weather constraints, or they close some of the areas up in the north. So if you're hiking north, you have to get there by a certain time. But if you're section hiking, you can take your time and enjoy yourself. And if you kind of decide you're done with it for a little while, you take off and then maybe go back the next year.
But some quit walking altogether. Mountain Crossings is an outfitters and hostel that's positioned around 30 miles into the trail. As it's located on the first proper road that most northbound hikers will come to, it sees its fair share of dropouts. It's also the place where many people replace the kit that's let them down with some better gear.
These are all leave-behinds, shoes that didn't quite work out for people. Usually they're the wrong size, maybe just really low quality. Sometimes they fall apart on them. So they get new boots in the shop. We fit them for new shoes and they leave the other ones behind. If they're already blown up, it's not really worth it to ship them home. So,
as the trail moves north, it leaves Georgia and enters the state of North Carolina and a place called Nantahala, where many more hikers decide to leave the trail.
Only being a couple of weeks away, people get here and they realize that maybe it's not for them hiking all the way to Maine. In the spring, we get a lot more of those that you could definitely tell they're not going to make it to Maine, probably going to drop out. But in the fall, though, the ones that we see that have come all the way from Maine, chances are they've only got a couple weeks left and they've put in several months, so the likelihood that they'll finish is very high.
Leaving Nantahala, the Appalachian Trail crosses Fontana Dam and enters the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. It summits the highest point on the trail at Clingman's Dome and then re-enters the forest before dropping down into Gatlinburg. It was here that author Bill Bryson decided not to thru-hike and instead cherry-picked the best bits of the AT. He's not alone. In a town called Hot Springs, I met Wayne, a thru-hiker who dropped out over 20 years ago to settle in this trail town.
Yeah, I was thru-hiking until I got here, and then I was thru-hiking, as they say. I was actually planning to stay here for a overnight and ended up getting a job for a week, and then it turned into 2 weeks, and then it turned into what now, 26, 7 years, something like that. I'm on the longest 0 day or zero in town probably ever, I think.
But not everyone in town drops out. I met Elmer, who thru-hiked in the 70s and describes a typical walker today.
It's almost impossible because there's so much diversity, but the typical one is still probably in their 20s, late 20s, early mid 30s, and they have finished graduate school, finished an Army hitch, or are changing jobs, or always wanted to hike the trail and just quit their job and decide to do it because they're young enough they can do it and have the freedom to do it, and they're interesting people. They have a concern about the environment and nature, and also about having adventures, going out and doing things that are not easy to do. They have ambitions, Some of them are doing it like on a vision quest, like the old Native American Indians used to do. They sort of find themselves and find their future, and they figure the AT is a great way. It can be a pilgrimage into yourself and into nature.
Next up is Virginia, home to the friendliest town on the trail, Damascus.
Around the end of May, early part of June, we get a big bubble that comes through. They start in Georgia and hike north, and so around that time is when they're coming through Damascus. Favorite dish here at Mojo's for a hiker is absolutely the pancakes. Blueberry pancakes. We embrace the hikers. We love the hikers. They're a big part of this community. They're a big part of this town.
They really are, so much so that Damascus is home to a yearly event.
Trail Days, it's an annual gathering where we have potentially 200 to 400 through hikers for the year, but we have a lot of alumni and returned hikers that come back every year. It's just a social gathering and sort of a common place for everyone that has those sort of experiences on the trail to meet and share their experiences and meet other people that are enthused in the same sort of thing they're doing.
One place where you're most likely to meet other hikers, whether or not they're walking the whole trail, is the best known feature in Virginia, McAfee Nob.
McAfee Nob was preserved for the Appalachian National Scenic Trail. It's one of the most iconic vistas in the state of Virginia, and we were able to preserve it with help of the Roanoke Appalachian Trail Club, the National Park Service, in the 80s, I believe. The Appalachian Trail used to be on the North Mountain, which is way over there, and was moved here when we acquired this land, and there's no view like it on the AT.
Indeed there isn't, but almost as famous is Shenandoah National Park, which many thru-hikers class as their favourite section.
Many of the people enjoy hiking through Shenandoah National Park because the trails are fairly smooth and easy. They encounter a lot of people who will offer them food. One of the hikers I encountered referred to this section of the park, or this section of the Appalachian Trail hike, as gravy. And he thoroughly enjoyed being able to walk long distances over the course of a day, not being that tired at the end, and having the capacity to get to water and resupply and encountering people, things of that sort.
By the time they reach the next state of West Virginia, most hikers head to the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, a place where Laurie Pottiger was visited by Bill Bryson back in 1996.
I do remember him coming in, and he stood out today, even among all the other thousands of visitors that I've met, and that it was like talking to a fly on the wall, because he had so many questions, and he just would not talk about himself. When visitors come in, we try to find out who they are and what their connection is to the Appalachian Trail, and try to get their stories, and he just didn't talk about himself or what he was doing. He was asking me all the questions. Well, when the book first came out, I think people tended to focus on particular pieces that maybe alarmed them, or they thought, they didn't like the way maybe their favorite thing was described. Some people resented the fact that he didn't hike the whole trail, but over time I think the AT community has come to appreciate that this book is just done a tremendous service to the Appalachian Trail in describing it so beautifully and introducing it to people all across the globe so they can understand this incredible American resource. The year after A Walk in the Woods was published in 1998, the next year, 1999, the numbers of thru-hike starters in Georgia went up 45%, and within 2 years it was 60% up from 1998. So really big increase.
And the numbers continue to increase, despite there being some risks on the trail, least of all black bears, of which Bryson was so afraid. I met one thru-hiker at the ATC who describes her most memorable encounter.
All of a sudden, these green eyes are just staring at me from maybe 15, 20 feet away. And, I got nervous right away, because somebody told me, bear eyes, they glow green. But I was like, maybe it's a dog, So, I'm looking at it and I just see these big, thick black legs, and I realize it's a bear just eyeing me, and I'm just standing there with my bear bag in one hand, just an open target, and I ended up kind of yelling at it a little bit, but it still wasn't going away. It kind of was like sizing me up, it felt like. It was just really intimidating, and eventually just sauntered away, didn't even run away, just off to the mountain, didn't sleep very well that night.
Despite the odd tense moment, walkers continue north, through Maryland, and then they reach Pennsylvania and the official halfway point, where a new museum run by volunteers awaits.
My name is Jay Sexton, and you're at the Appalachian Trail Museum in Pine Grove, Furnace, Pennsylvania. I have been section hiking the trail since 1974. Last year I think we had hikers through here from every state in the Union, and we've had visitors from countries from New Zealand, Australia, Germany. I think we had 21 countries altogether last year represented.
After the museum, the trail passes on to New Jersey, crossing the Delaware Water Gap. Continuing north, it moves on to New York State, where the busiest section of the trail awaits at Bear Mountain, and volunteers work hard to repair the erosion. It may be one of the busiest, but it's also one of the most beautiful. It passes over boardwalks, crosses the train tracks where an express can whisk you into Manhattan, then flirts with a short section in Connecticut, before moving on to the state of Massachusetts and the summit of Mount Greylock, where the forest changes to subarctic. It continues on to Vermont and the Green Trail, and then passes into New Hampshire and the town of Hanover, where Bill Bryson penned his book. Soon, the presidentials are reached, and hikers must undertake a bid for the summit of Mount Washington, allegedly home to some of the world's worst weather. Finally comes the last state of Maine, one of the wildest sections of the trail. As the finish line beckons for northbound thru-hikers, locals say that their whole outlook has noticeably changed.
They're more, they're bigger, they feel good. They've done so much already. This last 100 miles is, there's no doubt that they're not finishing now, unless, by God, something horrible happened. But, they have a feeling of, and they have a lot of friends, so they come in a little bit more like, less talking to us. That's some of them. Then some of them come in with a little bit of sadness and anxiety about, I don't want to finish. Really? It's done? That portion of my life?
But it is nearly done. Just one challenge remains, the crossing of the 100-mile wilderness, an exquisite and pristine section of the trail, before finally summiting Katahdin, where their journey ends and they must finally ask, what next?
My life is forever changed, and I've heard that before. People say, your life is going to be changed. It really is changed. One of the things I've realized is all the things that I thought I needed in life, I don't need. I carry them on my pack. And so I want to have more of a simplified life. Like money really isn't as important as it once was, and I'm hoping that I can maintain that balance. That's what I want to keep when I leave the trail someday, is still be able to have that balance and to remember that what's really important in life is what you have with you and the beauty that you're surrounded in, and looking for the good in people and finding that. When I first started the trail, My first night, listen to this, my first night I had my hiker poles standing out by my tent, and I was so afraid, oh my God, somebody's gonna steal my hiker poles. Like, that's crazy. I thought my hiker poles were gonna get stolen. And when you're on the trail, you start to realize, you start letting down those boundaries and realize that you can trust people and that people believe in each other and they're there to help each other be successful in this hike. And it's not like, you know, when you lived in the city and you had to lock everything up and lock your car and lock your house, and you know, you can live more freer. So I hope that when I get off the trail that I can find some kind of a balance. I don't know what I'll do for work, but whatever I do, I hope that I can still find the story, because every day out here on the trail, every corner that we turn is brand new. There's a new story every single day. And that's what I don't want to lose for the rest of my life.
For most hikers, it never truly ends though, for even though they stop walking, they still remain in some way connected to the trail.
The trail, it changed our lives, so we kind of thought that it would be nice to help other people to change their lives as well.
So are there any words of wisdom for those of us thinking that one day we might just do it ourselves?
Well, the main one is do it. Make room and do it. It's truly a unique experience. And it's not like, at least in this country, there's nothing like it that you can do that provides the same opportunities, the same experiences.
So no matter how you choose to tackle the Appalachian Trail, be it by doing a day, a weekend, or a section hike, whether it's simply going out and tackling one of the most famous landmarks, immersing yourself in nature for a few hours, or treating yourself to a more luxurious way over the wilderness, the important thing is that you get out there, is that you make an effort to meet the people and wholeheartedly take the time to embrace the experience. If you do, it will truly be an adventure of a lifetime, and one that will stay with you forever.
Thank you.